Hi OMMRI volunteers, here's a short training video on how to incorporate vessel watches into your standard OMMRI surveys to contribute data to the Scottish Vessel Project. The project is a collaborative community project bringing many different citizen scientists together to help better understand vessel activity around Scotland's coastline, including how vessel presence and activity might overlap with our favourite things, marine mammals. So why do we need to do this? At the moment, only vessels longer than 15 metres long or commercial vessels are required to transmit information known as Automatic Identification System, aka AIS, which I'll refer to it as from now on. This sends up information in the same way a radio signal would to receivers, and this byte of information includes who it is, where it's going, what speed it's going at, and what type of vessel it is. This information is used to track vessels for safety, for navigation, for working out who's coming into harbour, for example. This AIS data can then be used to map out activity, so we get an idea of where's busy and where's not. However, there's a whole spectrum of vessels under 15 metres that are not required or often even equipped to transmit this AIS data. There's also some vessels that are in a bit of a grey area that might sometimes transmit AIS data and sometimes not. For example, fishing vessels might switch the AIS on only sometimes. And again, military vessels, fisheries protection vessels, may switch off their AIS transmission purposefully to avoid being tracked. In other words, there's a whole fleet of vessels that are effectively invisible in this AIS dataset without any data on where these boats are, how often they're at sea, where they're going. Then when we map out vessel activity using usually only the available data we have, which is AIS data, we already know we're underestimating what's out there. But the question is, how much are we underestimating this? This is one of the questions the Scottish Vessel Project and the data from your vessel watchers will seek to answer. To demonstrate the potential scale of this underestimation, here are some preliminary results from 6 months of Scottish Vessel Project data collection. There have so far been thousands of minutes of effort from volunteers watching in Shetland, in the Moray Firth and in the Firth of Forth, as shown in the first column of this table. However, Orkney is really underrepresented in terms of effort, with only a couple of hundred minutes of effort so far. So OMMRI, we are hoping with your effort and time spent watching we can get the numbers up there too and improve our confidence in the data overall. So let's dive into the preliminary data so far. So in the middle column in the table is average number of vessels seen per hour. Interestingly, this is similar in Orkney and Shetland and in the Moray Firth, but fourfold in the Firth of Forth, indicating it's a pretty busy place down in the Forth. The next column along is the part relating to AIS. So we found that on average between 48 and 56.2% of vessels are not transmitting their AIS data when they're out at sea. So put simply, those maps of vessel activity based on AIS data alone may underestimate what's at sea by half. Why is this important, you ask? This means when AIS data is used to estimate underwater noise that marine mammals are exposed to, or collision risk, or potential disturbance, all of those predictions are based on data that is already underestimating what's actually there. So as a consequence of that, we might also be underestimating underwater noise, collision risk, potential for disturbance, for example. To properly evaluate the overlap with whales, with dolphins, porpoises and seals, and to estimate the risk, we really need to improve our understanding of what is actually there. So we need your help to collect this data and help characterise what is around our coastlines. To do this, you'll need 2 sheets, a dedicated vessel watch sheet that you'll fill in with the watch information and a boat code sheet, which basically just divides the different vessels into categories to help with data input. I hope you can use this video to pause and play back any bits that aren't clear and give you a bit of a refresher every so often. So the top of the sheet is for information on where you are, when you're doing the watch, who you are, the conditions, so visibility and sea state, pretty similar information to what you fill in on the OMMRI survey itself. In terms of location, you can do this at any location. And for timing, you can do a quick 5-minute watch to give a snapshot of what was there, or you can record everything that goes past in the course of a few hours or a day, however long you'd like to watch for. In other words, there's no too short or too long watch. So the first bit of data that you're going to collect will be an estimate of the number of creel markers, i.e. buoys that you can see from your watch site. So just use your binoculars or just have a look by eye and have a look how many buoys or creel markers that you can see. This is a great way to keep track of the potential amount of rope in the water at different sites and could eventually be used as data to infer entanglement risk to marine mammals, and we could compare how this differs around the coastline of Scotland and at different times of year. So that's one bit of important data ticked off already. And then when we finish our watch, we'll add in the time the vessel watch ended, and if we've used lots of sheets, we can fill in how many pages we've used and which page this is in the sequence in the top left hand corner. But now let's move on to what we're here to do, which is record those boats. So for this row, we're going to record information on just this vessel. It first comes into view theoretically at 15:30. We'll then record the bearing using the clock or the compass in the same way that you do for the OMMRI surveys. So we recorded the bearing when it's first seen, the time when it's first seen, and the distance from myself, the observer, in meters, just an estimate when it is first seen. Then let's look into recording information about the vessel itself. What type of vessel is it? Let's have a look at the boat code sheet. And from this, I'm going to record that it is a small fishing vessel, i.e. a fishing vessel under 15 meters, and the code for that is FVS. For vessel name, I can try and have a nosy through the binoculars, see if the name's legible, if I can read it out, or we can also use the maritime app known as Marine Traffic and have a look and see whether the vessel appears on there, which would indicate it is transmitting its AIS information. And that would give us the name of the vessel. So I had a nosy and it was appearing on there and its name was Fiona S. So I can record its name and I can also pop a wee tick in that box to indicate, yes, this vessel was visible on Marine Traffic. Now we move on to record information on the activity of the vessel. It's still, it's idle, it's fishing, and for those eagle-eyed of you that have been watching closely, you'll see that there's rope on its starboard side being pulled in on the winch, and there's a creel being hauled in. So this is a fishing boat hauling in its creels. So you can circle all of that information. If you see a fishing boat trawling or using rod and line, there's also bits that you can circle for that. Other options that you could circle here are erratic, so that would indicate a boat that was changing its speed or direction a lot. It was quite unpredictable. You could circle anchored. If you can see, say, a tanker that's at anchorage, that it might have got its generators on for electricity for the crew, which would still potentially be a source of underwater noise, is still important to note. So you could note down that it had its lights on, for example, as an indicator that it had a generator on making noise. So the next columns on the table are regarding marine mammals, and it has just a few questions. The first is, was the vessel sighted at the same time as marine mammals? Here the answer is no, so we don't need to fill in anything further on this right hand side. So that's us pretty much done for that vessel. When the vessel first goes out of sight, or when we end the watch, whichever is first, we can finish off this row by recording the time, the bearing, and the distance that the vessel was last seen at as well. We'll do this for each vessel seen during the duration of our vessel watch, with a new row for each vessel. And note here, vessel could be anything from a tanker, a ferry, an offshore supply ship, right down to a kayak, paddleboard, windsurfer, skiff. Basically anything that's out on the water to help us characterize what is out there while you're doing your watches. Now let's go through an example where there are marine mammals. So let's note the information about the time, the bearing, the distance of the vessel when it was first seen. Then, taking a look at vessel type and comparing it to the sheet, this is a sailing vessel with its sails up, so it's an SV. I can't see its name through the binoculars, and it isn't appearing on marine traffic, so I'll note that down. Its behaviour is that it's moving extremely slowly, it's sailing, and it's heading south. Now to move on to the stuff that we actually like and are interested in. You eagle-eyed viewers will have seen that there are also bottlenose dolphins during this sighting, so we note that down. The next column addresses whether or not there was an interaction with the vessel, and whether this was initiated by the vessel, i.e. the vessel went to the animals, or whether it was initiated by the animals, i.e. the animals went and took a look at the boat. However, here I don't think there is an interaction, and I don't think we observe a change in behaviour. So we'll note that down. Examples of changes that we might see and want to record are bow riding, animals changing direction, changing the length of time that they're diving for, becoming scattered, or the opposite, forming a tight group, appearing to disappear, or resurfacing really far away, changing the course that they were on previously. But importantly, also remember to record if there was no reaction, as that's really good data too, so that's what we've recorded here. One more example to go through with a little larger marine mammal this time. Again, recording the information on when the vessel's first seen and where, and then using the boat code sheet to decide upon vessel type. This is a small rib, so we will record SM, and we can add the note that it's a small rib, an outboard engine, which basically means it's got an engine on the back, and that it wasn't seen on the marine traffic app when we had a look on there. Important to note here as well, you don't have to worry about using the marine traffic app if you want an appy techie person and would rather just focus on being outdoors and enjoying the watching. That's just a helpful data geeky bonus bit, I guess, if you like using that app anyway. So moving on to speed and what is the vessel up to? Well, here it's still, it's idle, and if you look closely you'll see they've got a few fishing lines out, so we can pop a circle around that as well. But what's exciting here is that there's also a humpback whale passing them by, so let's note that down. The next column will record that there was an interaction with the vessel, and it was the whale doing a close pass right by the boat. But the vessel doesn't appear to have changed the marine mammal's behaviour, so we'll note that down and we can make notes about what kind of behaviour we saw, so breaths and a dive. Pretty cool, right, and all very cool to be contributing to this project. So let's move on now, it's quiz time. So if you'd like to quiz yourself and help you learn the boat codes a little bit further, then just pause the video in a second and use the sheet on the right to decide how you'd record each vessel shown here. When you've had a think and made a note, then you can unpause the video and the answers will appear in 5 seconds. If you ever see anything that you aren't sure of while you're out in the wild doing your own watches, please do just take a picture. Submit your picture in when you're sending in your vessel survey sheets, and we can take a look at the mystery vessel and help work together to decide what type of vessel we'll record it as. So you've done your watch, now what? Please take a photo of your vessel watch sheets on your phone or scan them in, and then email them to myself, Emily, and my email address is on the slide here, so it's elh2001@hw.ac.uk, and also email them to the OMMRI team. Alternatively, you can post the forms to OMMRI at the address on the slide. But one really good way to ensure that you've covered all bases and we've definitely got the data in all forms is to email us the digital copies as soon as you've done the watch, the same day kind of thing, and then post your hard copies. Perhaps once you've done quite a few, you can collate them together and then post them over to OMMRI at that address. So I guess what I want to say now is happy watching, and I hope you'll really enjoy getting outdoors and recording and collecting data for this project. A big thank you and acknowledgement to all those who are dedicating their time to collecting the data and collaborating on the project, to the funders, and to you guys for taking the time to train up and help too. Go forth and Please enjoy your watching. Thank you.